Hey everyone, it's Gabby
and Danny
and Manny,
and you're listening to Oye, Let's Talk.
Hey everyone, we're here with a lighthearted topic for today because we need some sunshine in our lives, and sometimes it's good to laugh at yourselves too. So we're doing a you know your blank when, and the word of the day is Hispanic. It's going to be a fun episode. We just want to start off with, of course, stereotypes are wrong. Please do not go up to anyone and say, you must be like this because you're Latina, Latino, Latinx, Hispanic. Duh, you're hot-headed, wearing hoops, chancla throwing person.
You spicy, girl. You spicy. You look exotic.
I hate those. Please don't do that. But there's definitely some things we live up to or habits some of us share. So for perspective, I'm going to lay down some groundwork right now. Some of my suggestions might be because I'm of Cuban and Panamanian heritage. Plus, I grew up in Miami, so ya tu sabes.
The same goes for me. I try, thinking of things to say on the episode. I want to be as inclusive as possible, but I will preface it just as I'll preface just as Gabby just said. Some of the stuff might be specific to just Cubans or people who live in Miami or people who live in South Florida in general.
And likewise, I'm Mexican Argentinian, so a lot of my stuff might have to do with me growing up with like hot sauce in my hand, arroz con frijoles, even though I'm sure that many can relate to that. You don't have to be Mexican to eat arroz con frijoles or however you say the word frijol.
Habichuelas.
Habichuelas, caraotas. But I have, I feel like I've been adopted in the Cuban culture as well because I also grew up in Miami, so we'll see.
Now that you all know a little bit about us, let's get to know some Hispanic culture.
Yes.
So let's talk about this real quick. Facts. You're Cuban or any type of Caribbean when you show up to the party and there's Domino's on a table.
There's Mexican train that's like Mexican type of Domino's. I don't know if you guys have ever played it. Fun game.
Nunca. I'm not even familiar with what that is.
Yes, there's always a domino table at a Cuban party. And I will say, you're Cuban or Caribbean when you eat a banana with your food.
And yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
I don't know if anybody else can relate to that. I think that's just specifically a Caribbean thing. And I will say, you're Cuban when you show up to a party and there's croquetas, pastelito de guayaba. Okay,
so two things to that. One, when I lived in Missouri and I would have banana with my salad, my rice and beans, with whatever. Yeah, I ate a banana with whatever just because I grew up that way. It was like, you know how people are like, eat your greens, eat your banana. So when I would have lunch, I would feel so shy and would have to go to the break room or whatever to eat my meal because people are like, is that a banana? Huh. Or why do you eat with a banana? Like my banana got so much hate all the time. So I didn't deal.
So good.
I just went to a corner, but like, don't knock it till you try it, y'all.
Danny, do you eat your meals with bananas?
I do, but only with like rice and frijoles or like, I don't know, very salty food. Like I can't do like salad. Like I can't do sour, sweet like that. I don't know.
But did you pick that up because you lived in Miami?
In Miami, I think so.
Okay,
yeah.
Not because your parents did that.
Right. I think platanitos are common in Mexico, like with some foods like that, but it's not like you eat it constantly with everything. Tostones, I definitely only ate in Miami, stuff like that. Another one, you don't have to be Cuban or Mexican or live in Miami, but there's a saying that, you're Hispanic when you're loud AF or your family is loud AF. You're the big family in a restaurant, in the church, in a park, and you're all really, really loud.
If anybody knows me in person, I'm like so loud. I'm super loud, and I sometimes don't even recognize how loud I'm being until someone tells me, "Hey, Manny, keep it down." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry."
Always,
and
even in
just
college.
like get carried away.
I'm cracking up because it's so true. Like I remember before, like, oh no, the mic's broken. What do we do? And they're like, no, just get Manny to talk.
Oh my God. Gabby, do you remember when we used to go out with our sisters and I would say something and I didn't even know? And they're like, shh, Danny.
Yeah, because you're loud for no reason. Like,
well, I don't know.
We're just not aware.
You
And
know
I
we're
you're
not aware.
Hispanic when you don't know how to whisper or use inside voices.
My mom will attest to this.
my inside voice is my outside voice. What are you talking about?
Someone knows you're Hispanic when they can't pronounce your last name. This is a personal one to me because not a lot of people can pronounce my last name. And my last name actually has like an ñ on it, but I always drop it because in English it doesn't exist.
Estopinian, right?
Yeah, it's Estopinian. So God forbid I had that on my last name. Like it's already unpronounceable by the white Caucasian speaker. So I feel like maybe that's just a personal me. I mean, you guys both have very easy last names, and you have the Garcias and the
No.
Suarezes out there, and the Rodriguezes. But me, no.
Your last name is hard, but I get some hate for Nunez because one, the ñ is never pronounced, and then whenever I need to type my name anywhere,
Nunez.
Even though it's
Yeah.
common.
it is very common, but sometimes they don't have like it on like web applications or whatever. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's not a real symbol.
Yeah. Mine
So,
has a
yeah.
hyphen. Mine is like more than 7 characters long. Prisoncado, like they're like prison? No. And it's not Daniel or Danielle. It's Daniela. Oh, Daniela? Sure, yeah.
You
let's
know
do
you're
that.
Hispanic when they mispronounce your name. Yeah.
Facts.
I think we've all been there.
facts.
We've all been there.
Okay, I have a fun one. And this one I had to Google for it because I didn't know the American equivalent. You know you're Hispanic when your scary stories included La Llorona, but not the boogeyman.
That one's specific because
Yeah.
I put down on my notes El Cuco. You guys never like grew up with like
No.
El Cuco te va a
Yes.
coger.
Yes.
That was the boogeyman for me.
But I didn't know what the boogeyman was. But also I just wanted to give a shout out because La Llorona, like you don't mess with a woman. Like
Oh my god. You don't mess with a Hispanic woman.
lets
So
you
funny.
know.
Okay, I have a very personal story, and I'm gonna, you're Hispanic when you can't recognize a Queen song. And I'm gonna say that because I didn't.
Why?
Yes,
This
most
is
of my
super
Hispanic
embarrassing.
friends.
Yes, okay, thank you, Danny. So maybe I literally grew up in Cuban culture, and it wasn't until high school, my junior year of high school, I was in 11th grade. Well, I was like 16, 17, and it was my first time hearing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Just killed a man, put a gun
This
against
huge mega American culture, pop hit that everyone literally grows up singing and knowing, and it's like part of your culture. And
Mhm.
remember we were going on a class trip, and the entire bus is like singing Bohemian Rhapsody at the top of their lungs, and I'm like, what the F is going on right now? Like, and I felt like, I don't know, it was just like, you're an immigrant when, or like, you're Hispanic when you can't recognize the American song that's playing on the radio.
Ay, pobre man,
And you
no
can't
pone
make
the ball.
sense why it's such a bop.
Yeah.
That was my thing when I first heard it. I was like, why is this the song?
It's genius. It's legendary.
Yeah.
No, it's
It's
great. Like now I appreciate it, but I just remember being like, this is what
Right.
why is this the karaoke song? I don't get it.
And it's a long song too.
So
if you think
long,
about
yeah. Imagine just sitting there for 6 minutes, and just people singing, and you're like, I don't know this song.
So
Okay.
I just realized from the list of what I came up with, when you're Hispanic one, a lot of mine has to do with food. I don't know if that's a very Hispanic thing because we tend to be in the kitchen all the time cooking, or all we do is think about food. But one of mine is, you're Hispanic when tu mamá dice que la comida está lista y no hay nada en la mesa. When your mom says to come downstairs because food is ready and there's nothing in the table.
Because you haven't said it yet.
You know what, Danny, I can 100% relate to that, but it dawned on me the other day that the reason your mom calls you so soon is because the food's gonna get cold. And it's happened to me where I'm like literally about to set the table, and you wait 5 minutes and the food's damn cold already, and I'm like, this is why my mom used to call me like before it was even set.
I don't know.
My grandmother would do the same thing. La comida está
Yeah.
lista, pon
feel
en
like
la
it's habit.
mesa.
It's habit. They have like 20 minutes left and they're like, it's time for the countdown.
I hate that though. Like, don't waste my time. Let me know for real. Okay, so I have a funny one. And I think a lot of people would relate to this. When the dishwasher and the oven are used for storage. Now,
That
this is
too.
this is my story. I would like to give a shout out to now Megan Gillespie because she taught me so much about my Hispanic tendencies. She was my old roommate in Missouri. I gave her mad creds for this one. She used to bake. I didn't use the oven too much, but I bought new Pyrex and I just left them in the plastic and I stored it in the oven. So she went to preheat the oven and the plastic was melting and she's like,
No.
what's that smell? Because she was going to bake cookies. And she's like, Gabby, why did you leave anything in the oven? And I'm like,
I'm sorry. Why didn't she check?
no, but I was there like, why did I leave anything in the oven? Why was that my like logic? Why is that where that goes? And I'm like, well, thank God you caught it. Like we could have burned the house down. It would have been my fault at the end of the day. And she's like, why do you guys store stuff in the oven? There's literally a tray under the oven. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. There is. I had no idea.
I have another one. When your parents threaten you with throwing a chancleta o que te peguen con el cinturón or the belt, even if they don't actually do it, that's like, I feel like it's very common for them to be like, te voy a tirar la chancleta si no te portas bien.
Yeah. For me, it was el cinto with the belt.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, even like you said, Danny, it was just like a tool of intimidation. Like, oh, don't think about it.
And my final one before we go to viewer comments or listener comments is you were taught about Jesus y el mal de ojo. Like both existed, coincided. And I've had so many people question me like, hey, wait, if you grew up Catholic, like why do you wear those eye thingies? And I'm like, to keep the bad spirits away. They're like, don't you have faith? And I'm like, this is stop quite
That's energy though, right?
Like don't make me question it. Like we have the Virgin Mary candle, we have Jesus on a cross somewhere in the house, and we have mal de ojo. It just all happens together.
Mal de ojo is not attached to any particular religion, right? It's just like energy.
Precisely. Yeah, it's like it's to keep bad vibes away, but it does make sense. Like if you ask Jesus to keep the evil spirits away, why do I need the mal de ojo? Like why do I need the eyes?
Technically, you should be faithful enough that the mal de ojo is not going to get to you. Question mark.
All I'm saying is that I got both, right? Like I'm really keeping the spirits away. But if y'all saw on my personal Instagram and maybe on Danny's, you may have seen our questions because we wanted to hear what you all had to say. And of course, we asked on Oya Let's Talk. Danny, why don't you go first?
So one of my first ones is when Vic Vaporru solves all your health problems. You know, the Vicks, the ointment.
You may have nothing, absolutely nothing in your medicine cabinet, but you got Vicks.
It's a staple.
Hispanics swear it cures everything. One time my mom was just like putting it over her toes for some, I didn't even question it. And I was just like, I'm not going to ask. But she swears by it. And kudos to all Hispanics who do. They do clear your sinuses.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, my mom used to always put it on my chest or in my back, and I just know that I always felt better the next day. So I always keep a little bottle in my cabinet. You never know. Another one is when you live with your family until you pretty much get married. True. I feel like with our generation, at least those who live in the US, it's gotten progressively better. I feel like, I don't know if it's the millennial generation that kind of decided to venture out and maybe go to college abroad. And I think we're starting to change that.
Yeah, when I told my parents I wanted to move out, they were like, shook it. They really thought I was going to stay there until I got married. They were like, it's not your turn. It's not your time to leave. And it's like, when did you discuss that with me? I didn't get the memo that I was going to stay here until then. So that is the common thing, because I feel like our parents grew up in that environment where, you know, there wasn't mobility. Like you lived in your house until you could afford, you know, moving out. And the only time you could do that was probably when you got married. But newer times, new minds, and here we are.
Yeah. None of us live with our parents.
Yeah, lol. Another one is, you know, you're Hispanic when you have 1,001 primos, and the one woman who's been with your family forever is actually a family friend, and she's referred to as tia, but she's not tia.
And that goes for primo, tia, tío. Like everyone's just extended family at that point.
That's actually really funny because it wasn't until my teenage years that I discovered some people who I just always thought was family wasn't actually family. I'm like, I had to do a family tree and I was like, hey, how come I have 2 padrinos? No, we just call that guy padrino. Why? And they're like, didn't you notice that your grandpa even calls him padrino? And I'm like, but whose godfather is he? Like,
He's just constantly questioning him.
He's no one's godfather.
Yeah, literally. That's the worst.
Okay, I have 2 more. So one of them is, you're Hispanic when you'd ask to go to McDonald's as a kid or Taco Bell, and they're like, pero si hay comida en casa.
Bro, I always hated that. Now I tell my mom that when she's like, oh, let's go out to eat. Hay comida en la casa. How does it feel?
And then you don't have to be religious, but I just feel like a lot of Hispanics say bendición, que Dios te bendiga, te mando mis bendiciones. Hispanics bless everything, and they might not even know like why or where it comes from. It's kind of like a habit.
Yeah, blessings is a habit in our culture. That is an excellent thing to have. Okay, so I have a few good ones. Are y'all ready? This is actually really funny. So I'm adjusting this one because it inspired a new one. But basically, Doctora Ana Maria Polo is a celebrity in your household. So if y'all ever watch Caso Cerrado, like they take her word to heart.
That's definitely a South Florida thing. And saying Caso Cerrado, I don't know if that's syndicated
100%.
anywhere else, is it?
I feel like it's just a U.S. thing. Or like a Miami thing. I don't know.
No, it's on Telemundo.
It is.
Prime time.
I feel like most of their ratings come from Miami, though. I don't know.
I mean, it's headquartered in Miami, so that would make sense. You could actually run into her in Miami, but that actually was the suggestion that you've met Doctora Ana Maria Polo out and about, and you got to pick because she's a local celebrity. This one's great. So, you're Hispanic when you're a legit adult, whatever you consider legit, and still wear baby cologne after showering. Y'all know?
No.
The baby cologne?
Actually, you know what? Yes, because my girlfriend literally had a bottle of it the other day in her room. So I like agua de violetas.
Like, don't expose her, though.
Don't worry.
I just thought of that. I was like, yo, I'm so sorry.
And so, this one, I feel like there's so many memes about it. But basically, when you open a fridge and you're trying to reach for the butter, and yes, it indeed is not butter. It's butter containers, for whatever reason, will always have leftovers. When the family bought that much butter, I never know.
You're Hispanic. Yeah, you're Hispanic when you use the leftover containers.
Yes. We are a sustainable culture. That's what I tell people. Really... My grandmother has been recycling for 50 years, if not longer. So don't tell me how to live a more sustainable lifestyle.
It's a problem.
Is it?
Yes. Because then your cabinet's full of those cheap plastic containers that you barely use, and they're like disgustingly dirty. I'm done.
You need to talk about facts. Another one is you can basically live off of white rice.
I guess.
I need to put like stuff on it though. Like
yeah, but like it comes with every meal. Like giving up rice is pretty hard in comparison to giving up something else.
True.
And then I'm going to end on this note. When you're 23 and still have a curfew.
If you live at home, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like not even 23. It can go up to like 27, 28. I feel like it's just house rules. Like, it's sad. At least for me, I feel like if I still lived back home, I would have certain rules and regulations.
Yes, facts. I was living in college, and if I came back home for something, my mom's like, you have to be home by 10.
Yeah.
I'm like, ma'am, I'm like buying your groceries, taking people on errands, and you're telling me now I can't even go out at night? What? So we've discussed a lot of stereotypes right now and a lot of ways that you can probably point out a Hispanic from their household or living quarters. So the next time you hang out with your friends, think of a few of these. We know you have some, and make sure to drop them on our Instagram. Remember, you're listening to Oye, Let's Talk. Bendiciones.
That was so good.